know. As you can see on our main screen, if you're just joining, go ahead and give me your would you rather. But I also have up there our week ahead of us, and your claim is due today. So we're going to work on that in class today. Hi, I haven't seen more than like 10 or 15 be submitted. And that is likely due to, I mean, it's not due to today, due until today. So that's due to it not being required until today. But also, I want to make sure that you're not rushing through this piece because it's part of the planning piece that's really crucial to, successful communication, especially if it's something super important. Like, I'm not planning out the conversation that I'm going to have with, my coworker over lunchtime. Of course, that's not what I mean, but I would be planning out an argument if I was presenting it to anybody that I wanted to persuade. So it's crucial to take this into account. And maybe that's why tons of people haven't submitted yet. And that's okay, because that's what the purpose of today is. Part of my sniffly nose, too. I feel fine. It's allergies, and I'm on 3 different allergy medicines right now, and it's still, like, fighting its way out. All right. Today we're talking about claims. If you don't know, we are starting our argumentative essay unit, and it will be due right before you go to spring break. So we are starting with making a decision on what our stance is going to be, what we're going to argue. What is our claim? Are they really? So it's not just me. Okay. I thought I was going crazy. I mean, I am, but regardless, I was just kind of tripping because like the snow just melted and now my allergies. But I did hear, let's go on a little side quest for a moment here. I did hear recently, this was from my dentist. She told me that when the snow melts, there's so much like stored in it that it can impact your allergies when it melts, especially when it melts quickly. It does, doesn't it? Ugh. Last year we were on the same as my son, but yeah, Mags, you got to. You got to. All right. So, our warm up today, you probably noticed I used to have warm up here, but this is our would you rather. That's not a warm up. Our warm up, hey Sean, is talking about quotations and just a couple of reminders as you go into writing your arguments. Um, as I'm sure you remember from when you were originally taught this and practiced it over the years in school, Um, quotation marks should come when you're directly taking somebody else's information and using it in your paper. You can always refer back to these slides if you're using quotations and you want to make sure that you're using them correctly. Of course, there's like, you know, examples all over the internet for you to access, but these you know where they are and you don't have to search for them. Um, Make sure that it's comma, quotation, phrase, period, quotation. If it's not a period, we'll get into that. But um, that comma says I'm about to switch roles here as the writer. Now you're hearing me as the author of this other information. The quotations are the author of the other information speaking. And then after that, we're done. We have to use another piece of punctuation, whether it's a period, a question mark, whatever it is, we've got to use that punctuation to clue in the audience, the reader, okay, we're not the author of that other information anymore. We're back to me. Okay. So whenever you're using the exact words from an author, you want to use the quotations. But if you're just repeating the information, less of an exact phrase, more of an information like repeating, you don't have to use quotations around that. You can just say, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt was curious about the impact of, you know, plastics, microplastics on his health. You're not directly quoting him, but you're giving him credit for that question that arose, right? So what's this last one say? A direct quotation usually begins with a capital letter. If the quotation is not in its entirety, it begins with a lowercase letter. Now, I'm not going to be super picky when you submit this. Oh, is that the entire quote? Because that would take a lot of research on my part, but it's something that you need to be aware of as you develop your writing skills and are questioning how you do something correctly. Just make sure that if it's an entire quote, it's a capital and an end punctuation. If it's a partial quote, you don't have to use that capitalization. Punctuation is still required, capitalization not necessary, okay? There are some other options for you too, like if you want to get a little bit more creative and split the quote up. Um, that's very helpful when you're writing narratives, specifically like during character development. If you are giving, conversational quotes, splitting it up is adding more style to your writing. Any questions about quotations, clarities that you need? I know you're like, I won't remember what to do until I get to them, and then I forget that I don't, then I remember that I don't know what to do. Okay, so today you have to submit your claim to 4.4, and this is part of the process of the argumentative essay. And within that, we need to make sure, like we went over what claims were last week, right? We know what a claim is, and we know that in this argumentative essay, we're making a claim. We get that. We get that. But now we have to narrow in on what a good claim versus a undeveloped claim look like, and making sure that we understand the purpose of narrowing it down a bit. So on your screen, I have in big bold letters, so what? Because the question that you have to ask of your topic, the very first question that you have to ask of what you're thinking about writing about, I don't want to say of your topic, but once you think you've developed a claim, you have to then say, so what to yourself. For instance, if we're looking on the screen, um, uh, we have a student who submitted, this isn't true, but we have a student who submitted a topic, a claim in their 4.4, and it was social media. That's what they said they were going to write about in their argumentative essay, social media. So what? So what about social media? Because social media, far too broad. And there's something crucial missing that you have to do with any claim. When you're just saying social media, you're missing a stance. You have to take a stance in an argumentative essay or project. So this student submitted social media as their claim. My question is, so what about social media? Oh, social media has a negative impact on teen mental health. That's their claim. So yeah, the topic is social media, but so what about it? How about this student that submitted school uniforms? So what about school uniforms? Yep, school uniforms, they exist. There are many different kinds. Some schools require them, some don't. So what about school uniforms? Oh, school uniforms should be required because they reduce bullying. That's a stance. But why we have to make it human-like is more narrow, getting more narrow. But you're not going to ask a question in your claim. You are going to tell people the answer to a question in your claim. Okay. So the last student submitted that they are going to argue about homework. So what about homework? Okay. People do work at home. Oh, no, no, no. Homework does not improve learning for elementary students. That's what I'm going to argue. Got it. So you can see, first Juan says, yeah, anecdotal information here. I can give you evidence that that's not true. And regardless of whether or not we agree with these arguments, they've taken something that is just a topic and turned it into a claim. Because one thing you'll notice about these claims is that there's multiple perspectives. And that is a good claim if there's things that can be argued about it. And you're proving that these are better claims over here than what we started about over here. So let's keep going. Before you submit the claim that you want to write about or research on, before you submit that, you have to go through the 3-question test. This is going to prove that you have made sure that your claim is sufficient, narrowed, and specific to get cruising on the rest of the project, okay? First question, is this debatable? Could someone disagree with me? If the answer is no, that's not a claim. It's a statement. It's not a claim. If the answer is yes, we go on to number 2. Is it specific? Not just vanilla is a bad flavor. What about it is bad? Or school's bad, uniforms are bad, social media is bad. What about it is bad? Or good for that matter. So is it debatable? Could somebody disagree? If that's a yes, move on. Is it specific enough? Am I giving you enough information that I don't have to write a book, but a small amount of information that I can answer the question to, or I can support my claim, rather. Sorry. And then lastly, can I support it? Am I going to find evidence for this? Reliable evidence. Am I going to be able to look up and find information from a source that I can trust that supports me? Now, for your high school argumentative essay, this is important. When you get into higher levels of research, let's say like a master's or a doctorate degree, like after you've finished your first degree in college and you go on to those higher degrees where we're like researching for our career, then you don't always have to have evidence to support you because sometimes you are writing the evidence, right? But for this case, you have to answer these 3 questions. Is it debatable? Is it specific? And can I support it? Will I be able to find information that supports me enough that I can complete this task for my teacher to show her that I know how to communicate persuasively? So ask yourself these 3 questions as you're coming up with a claim. Let's look at this because this is when it comes down to getting like feedback from me. So you submit that 4.4 and you give me your claim, and then you move on with your life and you start writing your essay or completing your project. The problem with that is if I look at your claim from 4.4 and I give you feedback after you have already moved on, you're going to have to go back. So making sure that you get feedback from me on whether that claim is appropriate because it's debatable, it's specific, and you can support it, making sure that you get that answered. And if you aren't sure, that you wait for my feedback is crucial. So don't think that just because you submit a claim, that's the one you should go with. today is a great day if you're brainstorming some ideas and aren't sure to run them by me in class and then submit them. If you get the green light from me in class, obviously when I go through and check them, you'll get the green light there as long as they're the same as what we talked about. But it's really important that we make sure that you have a strong claim and not something too broad or not something that's just a topic, okay? So let's look at topic versus claim, the final showdown, and then I'll give you plenty of time to work on submitting your 4-4. But I'm giving you these examples so that you can recognize them when they come up for you. All right, so on the too broad side, let's start with I'll argue about vaping. I'll argue about vaping. Is it debatable? Vaping is a thing. It's not really debatable because it's like it is something. No, yeah, it's not really debatable. I'll argue about vaping. But you can't argue about vaping like I see them at the store. Like it's a thing. It happens. Vaping is a thing. So I guess you could argue about vaping, but like it's not really debatable, so it's not even a claim anymore. And even if it is debatable, by the time we get to is it specific, it's a no, right? I'll argue about vaping. It's not specific. What about it? That vaping is a thing or what? Like I don't get it. And to make it more specific, the student's going to go, "Oh, no, vaping should be banned because it's advertising targets teenagers." So that is so that is what would make it specific. And so then then okay, this is debatable. Vaping should be banned because it advertising targets teens. Yes, that's debatable. Okay. Um, and now it is specific because we're talking about teenagers and advertising uh, vaping specific, but can I support it? Well, I don't know. So I'm going to have to go search. And this is all part of the writing process. I know we want to be like, okay, I've got my claim. And I know where my research is going to be. Well, the whole point of being persuasive is finding the best information. So you're going to want to try to find some evidence to support you before you lock into a claim, because if you don't, and then you get to the end of the time period that I'm giving you to write this, and you're like, my evidence is kind of trash. Now you got to go back and find a whole new claim and start all over. All right, let's look at the too broad. My topic is gun control. My topic is gun control. That's what I submitted to 4.4. What is me 2.0 going to say? Is that debatable? Is gun control debatable? I think it is. I think it's debatable. Gun control is debatable. Someone could disagree with you and say, no, gun control. Or yes, whatever side you're taking. But are you being specific? Your topic is gun control. What specifically about it? And I don't have that answer, so I'm not even moving on to question 3, because if I can't get past question 2, then the claim is no longer a claim and I've got to go back and modify it. What could make this better? Instead of my topic is gun control, I'm taking a stance. I'm taking a position that someone can argue directly with me about. Stricter background checks would reduce violence. Okay, so you're not talking about gun control. You're talking about background checks for guns. Got it. So if we go back to our 3-question test, is this debatable? Absolutely, somebody could disagree with that. That's a hard yes for number 1. So we go to number 2, is it specific? Yeah, we're talking about background checks to purchase firearms and reducing violence. But very specifically, I can pinpoint those things. Can I support my stance that stricter background checks would reduce violence? Can I support that? I'm going to go look for some evidence. Pretty sure I can support it, though. I gave myself 3 yeses. That is a strong claim. Stricter background checks would reduce violence or gun violence. All right, our last student. I'll do recycling. We love a 3 R's queen or king. I'll do recycling is too broad, though. Let's figure out why in the 3-question test. I'll do recycling, Stoops. Okay, is that debatable? I guess, but I don't think so. Like, are we debating like that there is recycling? Absolutely. And I have a link for a form to submit for that, okay? I'll get it for you in just a moment. Okay, so we don't even get past question 1, but let's pretend that we did. Let's pretend that we did get past question 1 and we got to question 2 for my topic of I'll do recycling. Let's go to 2. Is it specific? It's about recycling. Recycling what? Oil? Clothing? Food waste? 1. Oh, yeah, you have to be specific or else it can't be debatable, right? And you certainly can't find evidence to support your claim if it's not a debatable topic. So now instead of I'll do recycling, because there's bajillions of ways that we could research recycling. No, now I'm going to say, oh, okay, schools should recycle, should be required to recycle to help the environment. That can answer, is it debatable? So if I went to my school board and said, you should be required to recycle, is that something that do you think the school board could say no? Or maybe there's a few that say yes, but there's plenty that say no. Sure, somebody could reasonably disagree with me. Is it specific? Yeah, we're talking about schools. We're talking about recycling within schools. There are numbers of ways that we could talk about. We could go down a rabbit hole there. So you could get even more specific about what kind of recycling you're talking about: paper, food, etc., plastics. And then can I support it? Am I going to be able to find evidence to say that, yeah, schools alone could impact the environment if they were required? Yeah, I could. So that one easily answers the 3-question test. So now your goal is to determine what you would like to write about. And on that same topic, let me share something with you. As you're thinking and brainstorming, because you bring up a really good point about, oh, if you give us feedback, or if we determine that like we don't like our claim or we want to try something else, I have on our Padlet, I have a resubmission form, because you won't be able to resubmit it inside of our course, like through your gradebook, through that link. You're not going to be able to resubmit it, but you will be able to resubmit it here. So this is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on my Padlet. Although if you really miss the mark on your claim submission, I put it in your feedback right there, so you should be able to click on it. But it's always available here. The argumentative claim 4.4. If you know you need it already, I'll drop it into chat. This is after you've submitted your 4.4. So this is not your original submission. You can do that in class or in your course content. But if you've submitted it and you're like, no, that was a oopsie, or I did not really understand what I was submitting, resubmit it. Like, we're human. We're allowed to change our minds on things. We're allowed to change our stance on things. If you start researching and you're like, I feel the opposite of what I said, that's okay too. Because you've found the evidence. That's the whole point. Okay. Additionally, I want to share something with you just briefly because I'll get into this more probably Thursday, but definitely next week, is your argument options. And this is simply because I know that writing an essay, I would give it, I hate saying this out loud, like on record, but I don't think writing an essay is going to be as crucial to learning as it once was. And because of that, it's important for me to offer you opportunities to show what you know in a different format. So, if you are of the mindset that writing an essay would not be the best way for you to show me that you know these communication skills that I'm asking you to show me, particularly persuasive, taking, creating a claim that's strong and supported with evidence, if you can do that in another format, like, please do. I want to see whatever speaks to you because writing an essay is becoming an outdated form of assessment. Um, and it does not allow for any creativity, frankly. So um, I've come up with a list of ideas that do allow for creativity and allow me to assess your skills in this persuasive writing standard set. This is also available on the Padlet, so if you're like, ooh, that looks interesting, I might want to peruse that, feel free to. It is right there for you on the Padlet. It's under Assessments, Argument Options menu. It might have come out, I don't know. All right. So that's enough of me chirping at your face. We'll go back. Where'd she go? Nobody knows. Guess we'll go the long way. So right now you should really be thinking about what you're going to submit for 4.4 as your claim, taking a strong stance. No, I haven't linked here. Let's link it while we're here. Where are you? Right there. Except it's not week 5, it's week 6. So I'll rename it now 2. All right. This is me saying, if you want to run a claim by me, now's the time. Well, right, because you're going to be you're going to use that claim to do your assessment at the end of this unit, which is being persuasive, either by writing an essay or any one of those other things that are on the menu, okay? That's in a question again. You have to take a stance. You're not asking the question. You're answering a question. So no question marks at the end of your claims. It is fair to use a question to develop your claim because that question would require somebody that responds to take a stance, right? I don't know if it's too broad because you haven't told me what you're going to write about. So you have to put it in a claim format. Asking a question is more topic based, I guess. See what I'm saying? That is a topic, but it's not a claim. Look at what I have on my screen. Too broad versus claim, strong claim. And using the 3-question test is crucial. Maggie, I would say you could change that into it is too broad the way that it is right now. So if you wanted to, you could change it into developing robots and AI to do blank should cease. The we is too broad, so who's we? And the things is too broad. What things? And then also you have to take a stance on it one way or another. Yes, we should. No, we shouldn't. Who's we? What are the things? Once you get those things narrowed down, yeah, that claim is perfect. Serena, extra classes is too broad. Remember what I brought up earlier, the so what? Okay, extra classes, so what? Homework, so what? Extra classes, what about it? What about extra classes are you going to claim? Just like this student submitted homework. Well, homework, so what? Like it's a thing. It's not debatable. That word homework is not debatable. It's a word, it's a thing. But what is debatable is homework doesn't improve learning, specifically for elementary students. So I can claim this because somebody could disagree with me. It's specific, and I can definitely find evidence for it. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, but I'm not going to stop the conversation. I just don't want